Good evening. It's good to see you all. We're going to get started just a bit late. I've heard the traffic was a little bit tough coming in, and we're also competing with the beautiful day outside. So we've got some people that are making their way in. So my name is Chris Kilbride, and I'm honored to serve as your superintendent. I'm finishing my 5th year in the role of the superintendent position. Prior to serving as superintendent, I was the principal of Booter Elementary for 5 years, from 2007 to 2012. Prior to working at Booter, I was the assistant principal at Kratz Elementary. Did that for 4 years. Prior to that, I was the director of professional development here in the district for 2 years. And then prior to that, I was a teacher at Hague Middle School. I taught science and social studies for 4 years. So I've had a good run here in the Ritenour School District, and just very blessed to be here serving you all in this community. So before I get started on the state of Ritenour, there are some people in the audience tonight that I'd like to start by recognizing. So when I call your name, if you'd please stand to be recognized. We have a number of members of our Board of Education with us this evening. I'll start with our Board Vice President, Ms. Jennifer Lonis. We also have 4 directors with us this evening. We have Dr. Stacy Alden Wilson, Ms. Ruth Bell Greco, Mr. Tom Drennan, and Ms. Penny DeGarden. We're also joined by a number of building and district administrators. So administrators, when I call your name, if you'd please stand to be recognized. We have our Director of Adult Education and Literacy, Ms. Karen Musimic. We have our Coordinator of Professional Development, Ms. Evelyn Gilliam. In the back of the room, greeting people as they come in, we have our high school principal, Dr. Shane Hopper. We have our assistant superintendent for human resources and the former principal of this building, Kim Rumpus. We have our assistant superintendent for student services, Ms. Julie Hahn. We have our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Mike LaChance. And we have our new CFO, Mr. Dwight Lindhorst. Also joining us this evening, and the person who put a lot of this together tonight, our Director of Community Services, Mr. Doug Bray. So thank you for coming out at 5 o'clock on a beautiful afternoon to hear about a state of Ritenour. This is the 3rd year in a row that we've given a state of the state. The goal is just to give an update on some of the successes and some of the challenges that we face in this school district. The community and the school district are closely linked. So as the school district experiences some success, so does the community. But the reverse is also true. If the district is facing some challenges, those challenges can get passed on to the community. In our vision, we talk about having a strong partnership with the community. And that's exactly what we're trying to strengthen this evening, is by a two-way exchange of information. I'll be speaking a bit on the strengths and some of the opportunities. There'll be a chance for question and answer after my piece. And then this evening, we'll close with a video that's been put together that's a quick video montage of the year. We have some special guests also with us this evening, and we're waiting for a couple more of our students that are going to be honored this evening to arrive. So one of the things that right now I'm going to skip past is the Ken Crowder Best Kids in America Scholarship. We're going to be talking, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mr. Ken Crowder and some of his former students to talk about the scholarship that they endowed in his honor when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame back in the fall. And we're also going to be introducing some of our high school graduates. They're going to be graduating on June 3rd. As soon as all of our recipients arrive, we'll cut away to the Best Kids in America Scholarship. So in about 40 minutes, would like to give you an update on the state of Ritenour. I've got a series of prepared slides. If you have questions, we'll have a question and answer period right towards the end. So the first part of the presentation that I'd like to share tonight talks a bit about the state of accreditation in the state of Missouri and where Ritenour stands in the eyes of the state. So the Ritenour School District is and always has been a fully accredited school district, and Ritenour will remain a fully accredited school district. But going back to 2012, the system has changed. The system focused more on secondary outcomes, more specifically on the high school. And coming into this system, the system became more rigorous. So every year, we receive an annual performance report. So in that report, that gives an update, or we're scored in a series of criteria that are set forth by the state. Those have to do with student test scores, they have to do with the performance of subgroups, they have to do with college and career readiness, they also have to do with our graduation rate and our attendance rate. So based on data from the 2015-2016 school year, that was not this school year that we're just completing, but last year, we received an annual performance report of 71.4% of all possible points. In the state of Missouri, in order to remain a fully accredited school district, you have to score at least 70% of the points. So based on our performance, we have a very, very narrow margin that we've scored to remain fully accredited. As we have looked at this score, we know that there's one big area where we have been losing points, and that has to do with our high school graduation rate. So we're scored on our high school graduation rate, and we lost some points last year based on 4 students. So you're judged on how many more graduates you can score each year as compared to the year before. And we knew this past June that going into our APR, that the number of graduates in this year was not as high as the year prior. And we knew that there were 12 kids that at some point during their 4 years of going to Ritenour had dropped out, had stopped coming to school. And we knew that if we could locate any of those 12 kids, and if they've graduated from a high school and an alternative school, a credit-bearing program in the state of Missouri, if we could locate 4 of those 12 kids, then we would have maintained the same APR status, and we would have kept our APR at 78.6%. So we spent a month last June reaching out, trying to find those students where they had been. If we could find that they had graduated, we would have kept those points, and we couldn't find any of those 12 students that they graduated from any school in the state of Missouri. So as a result of that, our APR dropped, and it was largely a result of losing some of those graduation points. So in response this year, we've had a very focused effort to make sure that those students that were at risk for graduation received a whole lot of attention, a whole lot of focus, and some additional strategies that had not been in place before. Back in December, we had realized that out of a graduation cohort of about 350 kids, there were 32 students that had to pass every single class second semester. We expanded that to capture 25 additional kids that not only did they have to pass every class, but they had to make up one additional class that they had failed at some point during their high school career. So that was 57 students that, starting in January, myself and Julie Hahn began meeting with Dr. Hopper on Tuesday mornings to track the progress of this group of 57 students. Every one of these students was assigned a faculty mentor. That was a teacher or staff person at the high school that was checking in on these kids every week. We checked the numbers of D's and F's that the children received, and we offered after-school tutoring and also tutoring on weekends for these students to help get them caught up. There was a story yesterday of one of my former students that made up 2 classes in the course of 3 weeks because he was committed to graduating and walking with his classmates on June 3rd. So based on the data and the scenarios that we're running now, we are expected to capture all of our graduation points and get that APR moving back in the right direction. So our enrollment in the district remains steady for this year. So there was a slight decrease in the overall enrollment this year compared to last year. A total of 6,366 students based on the last Wednesday in September count. It's 26 students fewer than last year. But I'll tell you, if you have a child or a grandchild that attends one of our Ritenour elementary schools, it certainly doesn't feel like less. Every one of our Ritenour elementary schools, as of today, has more than 500 students. And actually, the elementary school with the largest enrollment at this point is Marvin Elementary with 550 students. So while our overall enrollment is holding pretty steady, we're seeing a significant increase in the enrollment in our elementary schools. So a couple of years back, there was a bubble where we had to start going to 5 teachers per grade level. That's become somewhat consistent in some of our schools. That bubble has turned into a trend where our elementary enrollment is growing, so that group of kids is now in 4th grade. We'll expect that our middle school enrollment will begin growing and then on to our high school. So that signals a level of health in the Ritenour School District. But overall, when you look back several years, the overall enrollment of the Ritenour School District has been very steady. Hasn't really differed more than 500 students one way or another since the 1970s. When we talk about fiscal responsibility, our new CFO, Dwight Lindhorst, is coming into a good situation. Our prior CFO, Doug Baum, was a respected man, very respected in his work, and made decisions in the best interest of the community in terms of being very conservative in the budgeting approach, and that's allowed us as a district to weather the storm for the most part. Every year we have an external auditor or an external audit group come in by policy to review all of the financial function. We received a clean audit this year as they reviewed the accounting practices and the compliance with all the state and national regulations. Also this year, we're happy to report that we were able to benefit from the E-rate program. So if you get your cell phone bill and you see all those taxes that are down on your cell phone bill and you don't know what they're for, a lot of those are for helping school districts, public school districts, increase the amount of technology that's available for kids. So we received $251,000, more than $250,000 from the federal E-rate program. We used it for, last fall, that we used to upgrade our wireless technology infrastructure. If you had students or children or grandchildren in the district last year, a couple of weeks ago they would have been taking the MAP test or the EOC. We had a very bad experience last year with our technology system with the MAP test and EOC. The system, the Wi-Fi was going in and out. We were under attack from some viruses or a variety of things that were hitting our system. And the result of that is the students and the teachers were experiencing some issues. With some of the upgrades that we were able to make with the benefit of this E-rate funds, we were able to improve our Wi-Fi system and keep those problems down to a minimum. Ruth, you have a question?
EOC, everybody may not know what that is.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we talk about acronyms. Dr. LaChance usually gives the board members an ABC chart for all the acronyms, and I haven't given that to you. So MAP test is Missouri Assessment Program. It's the state test that kids in 3rd through 8th grade take. Children in 8th grade and then in high school take this test called the EOC. It's very similar to that MAP test, but it's what our high school kids take. A couple years ago, it went all online, and so students take all the tests online now. We've moved away from paper. Thanks, Ruth. So we've benefited from these E-rate funds, and really we have one of the premier Wi-Fi networks in terms of school districts in the region. And it's not because we can afford all of that on our own. It's because over the course since 1999, we've received $4 million in grant funding through the E-rate program, which makes us able to have all of our schools totally wireless. So while we're in a stable financial position, we're exploring a tax levy for November of 2017, for this upcoming November. The tax increase would allow us to eliminate a budgeted deficit. This year, we've got a budgeted deficit of $2.9 million. Tax levy on the operating side allows us to pay staff members, allows us to keep the lights on, really allows us to run the organization. All of the stuff that's on the facilities side can be improved with a bond issue. But operations is what helps us to pay teachers, pay support staff, pay administrators, pay our utility bills, and offer the services that we offer to children every day. So while we're deficit spending to the tune of $2.9 million, we are taking steps to reduce our expenditures, the amount of money that we spend every year. In fact, our expenditures over the course of the last 4 years have been held steady, where we're either spending the exact same amount or we're seeking some additional grant funding to defer the costs. So as we're exploring this tax levy, this would allow us to continue offering the services and the programs that we're currently offering, and it would allow us to stop deficit spending. In the Ritenour School District, 77% of everything that we spend is people. And so the way to reduce expenditures is looking at reducing cost for people. So the goal is to keep all reductions away from the classroom to the greatest degree possible. Because if you reduce spending in the classroom, the first thing that happens is class size goes up. So last year, we had an assistant superintendent, Shelley Mills Walker, that worked in student services. She was offered and accepted a superintendent position in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Shelley accepted the position. She left the district in March. We did not replace Shelley's position, and instead divided up some of her responsibilities among some existing staff. We also had an instructional coach that accepted a position in the district in West County. We did not refill that position. So we're also looking at other avenues, such as our new Gifted and Talented Center, our new alternative programs approach, to cut expenditures while offering services that are of high quality to kids. So we also, with our fund balance where we are, if we continue to deficit spend to the tune that we are right now, within 3 years, we'll be at a level that we would have to take out a loan from a bank to meet payroll in the fall. And that's something that we want to avoid. Now, some districts build that into their budgeting cycle because you get your big chunks of tax revenue in July, then December, January. You have to have enough money in your balances in your savings account to pay people September, October, and November. And for us, that's 14% of our balance we have to have in our savings account. If we continue deficit spending the way we are, because this is not the time for us to significantly reduce teaching staff, given the need to improve our performance, that's why we're going out for a levy, considering going out for a levy in November, is to allow us to continue offering the services and programs that we do now. So what that would mean for the average voter, if we do go for a 60-cent levy in November, that would mean the owner of a $100,000 home in the Ritenour School District would pay about $114 additional every year in new taxes. It's about $10 a month. Now, at the same time, there is another thing going on with assessments. Raise your hand if you received this postcard about a month and a half ago. So this postcard is from Jake Zimmerman's office, the office of the county assessor. And if that little box in the middle was marked with a red X when there was an assessment was done, that said that likely your assessment will be going up about 15%. That's great news. So the last 4 assessments, or the last 8 years, the value of property in this community has been going down. We had expected the last assessment round of assessments for it to level out, and it didn't. There was about a further 3% decrease. This is the first time in the last 4 rounds of assessments that assessments, the values are planned to increase. So it's a good thing that values are moving up, We've weathered the storm of downturns that goes back to 2008. So that's a good thing in terms of property values. But also that can also mean some additional tax liability. When we reached out to understand just what this means for the Ritenour footprint, it's 15% across the county. The estimated increase within Ritenour is 10.3%. So that actually is good news in terms of the value. So we've weathered the storm. One concern, though, is I've just talked to you about a tax levy. The district will receive additional benefits if the value of homes are assessed to be higher. But there's this thing out there called the Hancock Amendment, which limits the amount of new revenue a taxing entity can receive, and it ties it to the Consumer Price Index. So the Consumer Price Index is listed at 2.1%. So the value of property is estimated to be going up 10.3%. We will have to roll back our tax rates so that we reap only 2.1% of that benefit each year. So the good news for us is that there could be some increased support. The bad news is it would take us 10 years to receive all of that 10.3% increase in the value of homes. So some conversations going on around financing of schools. When you look at the number of times that the Ritenour School District has gone to the community for a tax levy, there's a timeline here, and I'll just speak to it because it might be kind of hard to see. We're in 2017. In 2005, the district went out for an 18-cent tax transfer from debt service into operating. On the debt service side, you've got to take out loans or sell bonds to build buildings and maintain them. When you pay down a bond, you can go to the community to ask for that money to be transferred over to operating to increase the capacity of the organization. Back in 1998, there was a Prop C sales tax rollback. And the last time that the Ritenour School District went to the community for an ask for a tax levy, it was 97 cents, and it was 1987. So that's exactly 30 years ago. There are some districts that will build a tax levy increase into their budgeting process every 5 years. And I'm happy to say, and I'm happy to work in a district that I think is very, very cautious about going out to the community on a regular basis. So it's kind of heavy conversation around finances, and I'll be happy to answer any questions when we get to the Q&A section. And we've got the CFO here, Dwight. Any questions that I can't answer, Dwight will be happy to step in. I think this is a great time to stop and to jump back to the beginning of this presentation. Before we get on to district and student successes, we're going to get back to why we're here, and that's recognizing each individual child for some successes that they have achieved. So the first 2 years that we did the State of Ritenour was just a very straightforward presentation. It's different this year because of this man that I'm going to call up to the podium, Ken Crowder. So Ken spent 40 years teaching children at Ritenour Middle School. And I won't steal Ken's thunder, but he's got some very unique circumstances that he's going to share about him being in this building this evening, and also a pretty powerful message that he's going to share along with some of his former students. Ken?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ken Crowder. I used to say like this: I've lived my entire life in the Overland Ritenour area. Well, I've changed that to not yet. But anyway, I came here in 1972 as an American history teacher. That's so long ago, it was even a different building. And I stayed so long, not only did I teach history, I became part of it. But I'm not here this evening to talk about me. About a year ago, some of my students that are now scattered over the entire United States put together and funded a scholarship aimed at Ritenour High School seniors. They called it the Ken Crowder Rodney Berry Best Kids in America Scholarship. Now, before we bestow on the winners this evening that scholarship, I want to tell you how I got that title. This is my buddy Rodney Berry. I had Rodney in school year 1995-96. And Rodney was in the middle of a tumultuous family. There was a divorce. He was torn to pieces by that. He would come to school, and quite frankly, he didn't give a damn about the French and Indian War. And as far as figuring out the angle of a triangle, that just helped him figure the trajectory of his next spitball. So Rodney was at risk. Rodney was troubled. In addition to being a teenager, you know, Rodney was having a heck of a time in his young life. Rodney would make it maybe third hour, fourth hour, especially with the lady teachers. They put Rodney out of class with the understanding, go to Mr. Crowder. And his face, with those blue eyes, would appear in my little classroom window. And I had a big chair in the room and Oreos in the bottom desk teacher drawer. And he'd come in and spend most of the day with me. And I would say to him, Rodney, you don't know it, but you're the best kid in America. And you know what? I'm pausing here because I can feel the emotion welling up. I kept telling Rodney that. I think he started to believe it. And at the end of the year, the teachers, the same teachers, Mitch, that put him out of class, voted unanimously that he be given the most improved plaque of the entire 8th grade group. He was voted the most improved student for school year 95-96. It's okay to clap. Now, here's where you get into emotion, because this is my first time back to Ritenour Middle since I retired. I just walked with Julie Hahn, Ruth, down to my classroom. Shouldn't have done that because it's messed me up. But anyway, on the evening, and here's what I think is so ironic. Tonight, at almost this exact time, 21 years ago, Jamie, you can picture it. I called Rodney down the center aisle of the gymnasium that's just out that hallway to the left to a standing ovation to give him the plaque for most improved student. Now, I had a heck of a time getting him there that night because he had a ball game and he was the pitcher, and I had to do a lot of conniving and manipulating to get him even to come. But he did. He came skipping down that center aisle, had on a paisley silk shirt, and I put that plaque in his hand and gave him a hug. About 4 days later, while walking down Midland, near Lindbergh, if you can picture Denny's, can you all see that? There's a car wash there, kind of down in a low place. Can you see that? Well, there's a sidewalk, and Rodney was walking down that sidewalk with a buddy, and he stopped to tie his shoe. Now, when you're tying your shoe, you got to look at the knot. So he squatted down, tying his shoe, and a car racing another car came up onto the sidewalk, hit Rodney, knocked him through the air from about here to that trash can over there, and for all intents and purposes, Rodney was dead when he hit the ground. Because he was athletic, because he was strong and young, his little heart kept on beating. But later that night, into the wee hours of the next morning, his dad, Randy, had to make the decision to let him go. So now we get into this whole ordeal. You know, the kids are excited about the summer. The year is over. I was under my carport putting a suitcase into my automobile to take a trip, and the phone rings. It might have been you. Was it you, Jamie? And they're crying, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. They were telling me that Rodney's been hit by a car on Midland. I figured that was just like, nothing. Well, it was far from nothing. And so within the next day or two, we're all at Artman's funeral home. And the thing that was the most effective, and it's going to be rough to get through this, the minister that was doing the service, standing at a podium similar to this, he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, as we leave today to take Rodney to his resting place, I want all of you to know," he says, "as a matter of fact, all of you do know, that Rodney Scott Berry is the best kid in America." You remember that, Jamie? Well, that same plaque that I gave him in the gymnasium, they put inside of his casket and closed it. That was the roughest thing I have ever encountered in my life. That is the story of Rodney Berry. And that is the reason why these kids that put the scholarship together wanted it to be called the Ken Crowder Best Kids in America Rodney Berry Scholarship. And we have 6 recipients that are going to receive that scholarship. And Chris, I think it's time to give it back to you. Did I do okay?
So at this time, I'd like to call Ken's former students up to the front to be right next to Mr. Crowder. I'd also like to call Dr. Shane Hopper, principal of Ritenour High School, up to the stage. Going back to December and January, I talked about targeting a group of students that had to pass every class second semester in order to graduate Ritenour High School. When this scholarship was endowed under the leadership of Lisa Krzyzewski, I had a conversation with Ken, because Ken reached out to me and he said, "Chris, I want this scholarship to have an impact. What do we do?" So I said, "I think I might have the answer." And I ran the idea past Ken about targeting this group of kids that during their high school career perhaps had some missteps or some opportunities lost, that had to turn it around in order to be a part of the 99th graduating class of Ritenour High School. Ken liked the idea, and he said, "I want the scholarship endowed in my name to be targeted to this group of students. If these students show an increase in their academics, increase in their attendance, and if they write a letter and it meets passes the scholarship committee, then I would love to pass these scholarships on to these students." So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ken Crowder and just describe what these scholarships are.
These scholarships, ladies and gentlemen, are $1,000 scholarships put together by my students all over America. There's money coming in from Florida. And you know what? We realized that along about December of this past year, frankly, the students receiving these awards, if things didn't change, there wouldn't have been any diploma. Am I right? So they've turned it around, and we're very proud of them. And should we announce them now, Chris? You want to do it or me? All right. The first one here is a gentleman who I think ate Chuckerburger with me. Weren't you there, Adrian? Yes, sir. All right, come on up. Adrian Bateman, ladies and gentlemen. The second recipient is Mr. Victor Hernandez. Victor. Third recipient, Sierra Hobson. You were there that day with that checkerboard? Yes, ma'am. I'm proud of you. All right, the next recipient, Haley Inman. Deja, I've heard so much about you. Is all of it true, girl? It couldn't all of it be true. All of it good, by the way. Deja Lucas. And our final recipient, Miranda Rodriguez.
Now I'll turn the microphone over to Lisa Shashevsky.
Thank you guys for applying for our scholarship and for letting us read your stories and for being so vulnerable. We know that that took a lot for you to put your hearts out there, and we really appreciate just your persevering and not giving up even when things were really tough. And we really want you to believe and know that you guys are the best kids in America. To help you guys out with this next endeavor that your life is leading you into, our committee has gotten together and we are finding some mentors for you to help kind of guide you along this path. So we were hoping that after, or maybe right now in a few minutes, if you could meet us outside. We just want to talk to you and find out about your interests and your goals, and we would like to try and kind of help connect you with someone that could just check in with you, that you could use as a sounding board, or you just needed to ask questions. And they're former Ritenour graduates, so we just wanted to help put that in place so that you guys have someone to help you on your path. So thank you guys for coming, and thanks for doing your best and being the best kids in America. We also have Jamie Butler here and Elizabeth Merkel, but now it is Merkel, okay, who are also on our committee, so we are so glad that they could be here and help with this process. So thanks.
So it's certainly going to be tough to follow that. Yeah, I appreciate Ken, I appreciate everyone for all of their generosity, and for also making sure that some of our graduates, soon-to-be graduates on June 3rd, are able to make it down their path to college and career. The $1,000 scholarships can be used in a college or a trade school. They can also be used as in an educational savings account if the decision postgraduate is to go into the military or into the world of work. So just very honored and blessed to be able to work with Mr. Crowder and the team in recognizing our students. Great job. Now moving on to some other successes. So this was a great success. But other district and student successes, want to highlight some of the achievements this year. We have a number of our schools that have received state level recognition for the PBIS, Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports programs. A number of our students have experienced trauma, and trauma can take a lot of different forms. So what the PBIS program does is grades us and evaluates us on some of the universal structures that we have in place in our schools. Do we have strong universal structures in place? And then do we have teams that are able to problem solve behaviors? Are they high functioning teams, and are we able to individualize our approach for students? And as you can see, we have a number of students that have received either the gold level, silver level, or bronze level awards. We have a very strong student leadership group at Ritenour High School. The student leadership students, under the direction of Tavonda Palmer, received the 2017 National Gold Council Excellence Award by the National Association of Student Councils. Tavonda works with the support of Jerry Nolan, and Jerry is here in the audience with us tonight. And I was just informed that Jerry is celebrating a birthday today, and Jerry's here. Happy birthday, Jerry. Also happy to recognize Dr. Lisa Greenstein, our new principal at Wyland Elementary School, is completing her second year. She was honored with Maryville University's Leona Coral Outstanding Educator Award. We have a studio schools partnership with Maryville at Wyland, and Dr. Greenstein was recognized as the outstanding leader by Maryville University for a school that receives Maryville student teachers. Also, some more accolades for the high school. The Family Career and Community Leaders of America team received a gold award at the State Leadership Conference. This was the first time in Ritenour High School history. They will be competing in nationals in July. Isaiah Morel Thomas, Jennifer Pham, and Sophie Zaget earned this award for their Case 4 Cancer Project, which benefits cancer patients at Mercy Hospital. We also had some great awards. The Ritenour High School Color Guard earned the highest honor with the Gold Award for their performance over spring break down in Orlando, Florida. They were there with the band, choir, and orchestra, and all of the groups brought home some hardware. So it's exciting to see that our Ritenour High School kids are not just performing at the state level, but they're also receiving national recognition. And they also work under our activities director, Jerry Nolan. So Jerry, thank you for your leadership. We have two seniors, Grisha Ramirez and Janet Velasquez, who received a Distinguished Student Leader Award from the Missouri Association of Student Councils. And also, our Media Convergence program at Ritenour High School continues to be a nationally recognized program. At the International Intercollegiate Broadcasting Trophy Awards program in New York City, our kids received so many trophies that the teachers had to buy a suitcase to get them all home. And so if you ever try to buy a suitcase in the middle of Manhattan, so it's not cheap. So congratulations to our teachers in the Media Convergence program, specifically Jane Bannister, who was honored this year as the Missouri State Journalism Teacher of the Year. Very strong program, served about 350 students at the high school. We have a focus on college and career. The goal at the district level is to get 100% of our students to graduate and make sure they're on a path to college and career success. We're happy to say that 3 students went early decision to some top flight universities. We had 2 students, Diana Castellano and Andrea Gayona Romero, that were accepted early decision to Washington University. And we got a 3rd student in, and his picture is up in the corner. That's Jeremy Smith. Jeremy Smith will be headed to Washington University as well. The exciting thing about targeting colleges is the cost of a college education has just become out of reach for a lot of kids. Tuition at Washington University this year, $66,500. So when you think about $250,000 for a bachelor's degree, that's out of reach for most everyone. But the top 85 schools in the country, WashU, Dickinson College, where Kenyatta Savage is headed, they have this approach called need blind, where if the family makes a combined less than $80,000, these colleges will commit to meeting 100% of your financial need. So these students that are going to WashU are paying nothing. They're going for a full ride. Kenyatta going to Dickinson College doesn't have to pay anything. So at Ritenour High School, we have one of the top career college counselors in the state, Julie Kamschroeder. She's doing everything she can to get kids plugged into these schools. Not to say that schools like Missouri State and UMSL and Southeast, those are all great schools. But if you can go to Washington University, or if you can go to Dickinson for less than you can go to UMSL, that can be a life-changing opportunity for a kid. And she's doing a fabulous job of getting kids plugged into these schools. Also, Jeremy Smith, who's going to Wash U, was named a Merit Scholarship finalist this year, received a 35 on his ACT. So we're very proud of Jeremy. On the athletic side of the organization, this was one of the best years in athletics in Ritenour School District history. Ritenour has long been known for high-quality wrestling teams. And we have a former wrestler, a Husky wrestler here in the audience with us tonight, in Mike Greco. So we're starting to achieve the same level of accolades with our other programs that Ritenour has long been known for with wrestling and baseball. 4 football Huskies were named All-State for the first time ever. Our girls volleyball team won the district title for the first time ever. 13 Ritenour High School athletes have signed to play college athletics next year in football, cheerleading, softball, and volleyball. And we also have a number of students who are juniors at the high school right now that are being sought after at the national level and will sign Division I scholarships to play somewhere the following year. We have a very strong golfer in Zach Bomer. Zach came to us from CBC High School. This is his first year back in the Ritenour School District, and Zach competed in the state golf tournament very recently. He placed fourth in sectionals. Our Ritenour Junior wrestler, Ryan Houghton, placed 6th in Class 4 at the State Wrestling Championship at 160. And we also had 3 members of the girls volleyball team that were selected to the Academic All-State team: Morgan Coffey, Brenda Reed, and Corrales Bogue. In order to be selected for Academic All-State, you have to have a GPA of at least 3.6, in addition to playing 75% of the varsity matches in the fall. And if I'll say, this is not the first time that the girls volleyball team has been recognized for all-state academic teams. This has become routine for Coach Kim and her team. Amazing athletes. We also have 8 high school athletes that have received all conference honors for their outstanding performance in basketball and wrestling. And if you don't know, the conference alignment changed about 4 years ago. We're now in the Suburban 12 South. So we're in a conference with Pattonville Pirates, Rockwood Summit, Kirkwood, Webster Groves, and Parkway North. So we're competing in a conference with some very tough competition. Our second-year coach, Mike Nelke, was named the basketball coach of the year in that conference. And we're also happy to say, very proud, that we have Jody Wagster. If you go to a Husky basketball game or a Husky football game, you're likely to see Jody twirling. She received the award as the top twirler in the state of Missouri. Another opportunity for her to earn some money to go to the next level in college. So it's not just about the students that are in Ritenour right now, but what are students doing after they graduate from Ritenour? So as Lisa talked about, the Ritenour Alumni Network is thick, and the Ritenour Alumni Network, as I'm learning, will do whatever it takes to help another RHS alum. So Bill Cott appeared on an episode of This Is Us on NBC. He's appeared in a number of other shows as well. We had 2 students that graduated last year, Daryl and Chris. They competed in the Great School Lunch Contest at the School Nutrition Association Conference in San Antonio. Daryl and Chris both went through our culinary program at Ritenour High School, and their goal is to make it on their own and open their own restaurants. When we talk about improvements in our educational programs, this was the first year that we went one-to-one at Ritenour High School. It was called the Ritenour Technology Revolution, where every one of our 1,800 students at Ritenour High School received a Chromebook to have 24/7 access to resources to improve their education. It was a great success this year. We're happy to say that the number of Chromebooks that were damaged over the course of the year were minimal. And a large part of that is because we had a Genius Bar that we built into the high school, where it was our Ritenour High School students that were repairing the Chromebooks should they be damaged. And the interesting thing, and this is, I guess, just a word of warning to people. The biggest issue with the Chromebooks was kids having earbuds. So kids would have earbuds, and they would close their screen, and the earbuds would get between the keyboard and the screen and would crack the screen. So when I talked to the kids in the Genius Bar, and when I asked to get a breakdown of their work, what were they working on, they were 80% of the time replacing cracked screens, and 50% of the time the screen was cracked because kids tried to close their Chromebook and their earbuds were stuck in the middle of it. So next year, we're going to make sure that's not the case again. But it was a great year with the one-to-one rollout at the high school, and I'm also happy to report at our middle schools. Both Hake and Ritenour Middle are using their federal title funds to increase the number of devices that kids have access to. And at last count from our Director of Technology, Fred Harlan, we have more than 8,000 devices on our district Wi-Fi, which is significant. That's Chromebooks, that's laptops, that's desktops, it's iPads. So as a district, we're one-to-one. But we also are very cognizant that at the elementary level, students need to learn how to read, they need to learn how to write, they need to have that tactile experience. Technology is a benefit, but it can't be the whole situation. We're also very proud of our Project Lead the Way program and our focus on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. We had our second annual STEAM night. It was a great success. We're working to incorporate STEAM across the curriculum. The way that students learn math now is not the way that we learn math. It's all in a problem-solving context. And we're happy to go further down the road around STEAM, where kids are having to apply what they know in math to real-world problems. Now, heading into next year, this has been a busy year in the Ritenour School District in terms of new programs and initiatives. I'm happy to report that with the leadership of Dwight Lindhorst, we made a recommendation to the Board of Education to take our transportation program in-house. For many years, we've had contracted services for transportation. It was Rider, and then Laidlaw purchased Rider, and then First Student purchased Laidlaw. And we thought that we could do it better. So we made a recommendation to the Board of Education to take the transportation function in-house, and that's exactly what we're going to do for next year. So we no longer contract with a vendor for bus service. We have already signed a lease to have 28 new buses that will be here in the community. It's a lease purchase agreement. We'll have 23 regular routes, and then we'll also have 5 additional buses for activities, for athletics, for field trips, and so on. Because one of the issues that we have right now is there are not enough buses available. If students have a field trip and they're scheduled to be back near the end of school, very often those buses have to get back, and then they have to be turned around to run the after-school dismissal routes. It's one example of somewhat of an inefficient system that we've been working under, and we believe that we can do it better ourselves. Also, want to speak to the fact that we have had some challenges with First Student, but I also want to say that there are a whole lot of great people that are working for First Student, and very often it's not the person, it's the system that causes the concerns, and I think that's true of First Student. So we're looking forward to having much more success transporting kids for next year. So far, we've hired our new Director of Transportation. His name is Brian Sanker. He worked for First Student here in Ritenour in 2010. He's been working in the Hazelwood School District, and I hear great things about Brian. We're in the process now of hiring 28 bus drivers. The posting is out on the website. We put it out on our Facebook page, and the interviews will be starting next week. Our goal is first to target people in this community, because one of the things that happens with bus drivers sometimes, if somebody doesn't show up or they're sick, you might have to pick up a route at the last minute. One of the issues that we have is people that don't know this community. If they come into a route at the last minute, they might not know where they're going. So not only do we think that targeting people in this community is good strategically, but we also want to benefit this community. If somebody is going to be paid between $14 and $23 per hour to drive a bus, if the person is high quality, we much prefer it to be a person from the Ritenour community. Because as the district goes, so goes the community, that partnership that we want to strengthen. So if you know of someone that's certified, has their CDL, is interested in working for Ritenour, please encourage them to log on to our website to pursue this opportunity. If they have questions, about this opportunity or have problems getting onto our website because it's all online, please direct them to central office and we'll take care of them. We'll help them through the application process. Also this year, we've moved away with some of our technology. We've become a Google district. This was an effort, number one, to save money, and number two, to become more efficient. The changeover was relatively smooth. We're also excited about a new opportunity that's going to be here in this building. We are moving all of our gifted and talented instruction at the elementary schools into this building. There's an assembly room that's on the back of Ritenour Middle School that's going to become the new Center for Gifted Education in Ritenour. It's going to be under the leadership of Dr. Michael Dragoni. Students that are at our 6 elementaries, Booter, Iveland, Kratz, Marion, Marvin, and Weiland, if they receive gifted services, they will be bused over to the new center next year, and students in each grade will be spending 1 day a week over here in this building. It's going to be a project-based approach where, again, kids have to problem solve real-world issues and apply what they know and what they understand about the content to the specific problem. So we're very excited about this opportunity of opening a new gifted center. Also, we know that math at the secondary level is an area of opportunity for our students in Ritenour. So working with Dr. LaChance in CNI, we're bringing 2 new math programs to Ritenour High School. The first is Algebra 1. It's going to be the AMPed program. Students will be learning Algebra 1 while running a spirit shop at Ritenour High School. So when you go to Schnucks or you go to Walgreens and you see all the Ritenour gear that's out and about, we are now going to be making some of that spirit wear at Ritenour High School. And students will be learning algebra in the process and also learn how to run a business. And also we're bringing a new geometry and construction program to Ritenour High School. One thing I hear a lot about in Ritenour is, why don't we have shop class anymore? I've heard that 100 times. And so I didn't have a good answer for that. And so we are bringing shop class essentially back to Ritenour High School, and it's in the form of geometry and construction. Students will be building structures, they'll be working up towards building tiny houses, and they'll be learning geometry in the process of doing that. So the goal would be for students to construct a 400 square foot tiny house that would then be up for sale to the community, and they'll be working through the standards and geometry in the process. It'll be a math teacher that's going to be partnered with Tim Daly, who's been our theater director, and he is also kind of a Mr. Maker. They'll be team teaching the class, and they'll be working together to build a tiny house. So we're very excited about what that could be for kids. And then finally, in terms of new programs, we started an international welcome center under the leadership of Julie Hahn. We realized that there are students that are coming to Ritenour and they're immigrating from other countries. Namely West Africa, a lot of El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and some Mexico. Students are coming to Ritenour with very little English and very often a lot of trauma in their lives. If you spend some time talking to the students about their journey north, very often it involves some harrowing moments. It involves leaving their family and not knowing when they're going to see them again. And the idea that we'd be serving those children in the same setting that we're serving everybody else is just not doing right by the children. So 2 years ago, we opened the International Welcome Center at the North Wing of Hake. We started just with high school students that have been in the country for less than 1 year. We started off with 18 kids. This year, we expanded the program to middle school kids as well. We've got 51 students in the program. So next year, we're going to be expanding it from 2 classrooms up to 6. And the data indicates that we're going to be trending to be over 100 students within the very near future, within a couple of years. So we're very excited about what that can mean in terms of service to kids. The goal is for the students not to spend their entire career at the International Welcome Center. We start the students at the International Welcome Center, we provide them some counseling support, intensive English language, and the goal is to transition them to Ritenour High School when they can be successful in class. And we recently entered into a lease with the City of Overland to bring the Husky Academy to the analytics building that's at the corner of Woodson and Lackland. This is going to house our alternative programs, our positive transitions program for middle school kids, keeping pace for high school kids, Missouri Options, which is an alternate path to graduation, as well as a true new alternative. So if you go by the analytics building that's at the corner of Woodson and Lackland, you'll see that there's a lot of work going on right now. It's due to be complete mid-July, and it'll be open for business in August. And also, this came from the PTOs. I meet on a regular basis with the presidents of the PTO groups. And the questions came up about elementary schools. Booter is blue and white, are the school colors. Kratz is red and white. Weiland is blue and white. Why do we have different colors for our elementaries, and why is everybody not orange and black? Why doesn't everybody identify with the orange and black? And again, much like I didn't have a good answer for the shop class, I didn't have a good answer for why all the elementaries had different color schemes. And so,
It's the mascots.
it is the mascots, yeah.
Because Violet has dolphins, which makes it blue and white, and that's some sort of like a...
Mini husky.
It's the mascots that go with the school for the children to affiliate with their school.
No, I could have given that answer, and that would have been a good answer, but I couldn't think of it. So I just said I don't know, and I said I'd love to see us all orange and black, and so that's what the PTO president said. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So next year, all the elementaries are transitioning their color schemes to orange and black. They're going to keep their mascots, but you'll just have an orange and black dolphin at Weiland now. So just another idea that as we celebrate our 150th anniversary, which I'll get to in a minute, the idea of getting the Ritenour orange and black out there to increase the level of pride in the community is right where the PTO presidents were, and I was right there with them. We continue to have a focus on safety and security in the district. So our staff members have been through 4 E's intruder training, and if you've heard about this is pretty intense, significant training. This was something that was mandated by the state a couple years ago. All of our teachers went through it, and it puts teachers and staff members in the worst possible situations. What happens if there's an armed intruder that comes into a school? Now, you can act like it never happens, but if you look at the media, it does happen from time to time. We have to make sure that our staff members are prepared to do whatever it takes to keep our kids safe. So in addition to the armed intruder training, having video intercom systems at the entry to every building, having video surveillance, and also requiring photo identification are some examples of our focus on safety and security. We do have a focus on philanthropy in the district, much like you saw with Ken Crowder's dedication and the dedication of some alums. We also have a Pride and Promise Foundation that's working hard to raise money to give back in terms of mini grants to teachers. This year they granted out $13,000 to Ritenour teachers in innovation grants. Something that was driven by our high school students. This was the 3rd year that there was a first responder luncheon. Adrienne, did you serve in that luncheon? Yeah, I thought I saw you there. So the students came up with this, and on September 11th, a first responder luncheon. It was free for all first responders, and so we had police officers, paramedics, firemen and women came for a meal that was prepared by our high school students. We have the big food drive that actually was started by Ken Crowder, I think in 1972, I believe, in his garage. That has grown from Ken Crowder's garage to 18,000 non-perishable items that were collected and delivered to families this year. And then also, we continue to be a partner in the Special Olympics program, where we hosted at Moore Field, and we had more than 200 Special Olympians came out to participate. So if you've not gotten to our website, this is the 150th anniversary, the sesquicentennial of Ritenour. Doug Gray and a team of teachers, staff, and community members have put together a series of events to recognize our 150th. We'll be celebrating our 99th graduating class from Ritenour High School in a week on June 3rd at Chaffetz. Next year, we'll be celebrating our 100th graduating class from Ritenour High School. All the information about the events that are tied to the 150th can be found on our website, and there's the address there for that. To close, if you've not already picked up a Flat Husky, we have a social media campaign that's going on. This is Flat Husky. If you've read the book Flat Stanley to your children or grandchildren, it's a riff on that. We're encouraging everyone to download Flat Husky, and as you get out and about this summer and next year, please take a picture with Flat Husky in it. hashtag Flat Husky or hashtag Ritenour150. It's all about Ritenour pride. We're trying to send the message to our kids that there are Ritenour graduates, Ritenour people everywhere around the world. So we've already gotten pictures have come in from the country of Turkey. When I was traveling with a couple school board members to a conference in Denver, my Southwest ticket agent in Denver was a Ritenour graduate. And so sometimes we just don't realize the influence that Ritenour has, not only in this area, but all around the world. And our hope is that by using Flat Husky, we can send a message to the kids that when you go to Ritenour, you can go anywhere.
Overland Community Center has the actual cutout of the Husky that you can go by and pick up.
And- Yeah, so you can pick up Flat Husky if you don't want to download it. Overland Community Center, it's in there with all the information, and Doug's got some in the back with the cookies and lemonade and so on. Ruth?
Besides the graduation, the kickoff is on June 10th, the alumni choir and event, where we're bringing, Mr. Byers is coming back. For those of you who are here, Mr. Byers was the choir director. He will be directing, Rick Hurst will be directing 3 songs, and then Dr. Bell will be directing. We're doing some really good songs, some religious songs, some Phantom of the Opera, some Cowboys on. It's a big event, big event.
Alumni Choir, June 10th, Ritenour Auditorium.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Thank you, Ruth. So I've gone through this presentation kind of quickly. I'll answer any questions you might have. Amy?
The November tax, that won't actually affect us until 2018, correct?
Correct. So Ms. Pelker, council member, City of St. Anne, asked the question, the tax levy in November, you're correct, it wouldn't impact until 2018. Any other questions? So I hope our time together was informative. It was certainly festive, and to see Adrian and Miranda and Deja and everybody be recognized for their hard work. I think that's what it's all about. And we can't do this hard work without your support. As the district goes, so goes this community, and it's our desire to partner with you to the greatest degree possible to improve the outcomes for kids. Now, I want to thank you for supporting me and supporting the teachers and staff to the extent that you do. Ritenour is a place that feels like home, and it feels like home because of you all. So thank you for all you do for the staff of Ritenour and for making sure that your students are prepared to be successful in school and that we can keep this community strong. As I said, it appears that we've weathered the storm from the downturn after 2008, and Ritenour is poised to continue being a strong part of this community. Thank you for your time this evening. Have a good night.